What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So this is part 2 of our fat loss questions. We're going to smash through another 10 here. Hopefully you guys like the first one. So let me know if you have any more, pop them down below and I can always help you out with them. Does training change? In my opinion, this is probably one of the biggest mistakes people make when they go from, say, trying to build muscle to trying to lose fat, is they think their whole training plan has to change, and whatever they were doing is working for building muscle, and then they just throw it out the window and they think they got to go to like high intensity training. They think if weight training is actually going to be non-beneficial, where that couldn't be more wrong. You want to keep doing exactly what you're doing. The only thing that needs to change is your calories and your nutrition. So all that changes is you go from a surplus into a deficit. You keep doing exactly what you're doing, and with your training you actually try to push harder, in my opinion, because you want to try and hold as much muscle as possible. So at best, you try to be holding onto your strength that you made while you're in a muscle building phase. That way, your chances of losing muscle are a lot lower. Does meal timing matter when cutting? No, meal timing does not matter for an overall fat loss phase, but in my opinion, I would highly recommend saving some of your carbs for pre-workout and post-workout meals so you can have good solid sessions, you can recover, and you're gonna feel better in your training session, which is the most important part. How do I sustain the end result and keep the fat off after? After you reach your goal, if you just wanna, you wanna keep your physique the same, you're happy with where you're at and you just wanna maintain this, that's totally cool. All you need to do is bump your calories straight back up to maintenance. Now don't stress, because you will bump up a kilo or two, you will gain a bit of weight, but it's just gonna be due to water and glycogen stores being replenished, and you're gonna have a little bit more food in your GI tract. So don't stress about the scale, you won't gain any fat just bumping it back up to maintenance, but you will start to feel better, your energy will come back, and you will be able to hold that new physique. If you want to continue to try and build muscle, I would do exactly what you did before. I would bump back up to maintenance for a little bit, let your body adjust to the new set point, enjoy a bit more calories, and then from there, slowly transition, build your calories back up and slowly go back into that lean bulking phase. Do I need supplements and fat burners for my fat loss phase? No, you definitely don't need any supplements at all, and I would highly recommend not taking fat burners unless you're just using it for the caffeine benefits, whereas you may as well just get a coffee or like a Monster. But I completely understand some people don't like coffee, they don't like energy drinks, and it may be cheaper, but do not think that taking a fat burner is gonna help with burning more fat, because you can take any fat burner in the world. If you're not in a calorie deficit and you're not doing everything else right, you're not gonna lose fat. Even if you are in a calorie deficit and you take one, I don't think it's gonna help more at all. If you want to use supplements, I would just recommend a whey protein for convenience. It makes life way easier, makes hitting your protein targets a lot easier, and in most cases it is actually cheaper. And creatine monohydrate, because it's very cheap and it's probably the only supplement that is backed heavily by science to work other than whey protein. Is fasting better for fat loss? No, fasting is definitely not more superior than a normal calorie deficit where you do eat breakfast, although it can help people sustain their diet, which is the main thing. Sustainability is key number one, so you've got to keep that in mind. He's out. Although it can help a lot of people sustain their diet. So if this is you, and that is completely cool, but don't think fasting is more beneficial and don't think you're gonna lose more fat, because you're not. The reason why it can help people sustain their calorie deficit is because sometimes, just missing that first meal, pushing your calories back to later in the day, you have a shorter window, which means obviously you don't have as much time to eat, and therefore which means your meals are going to be bigger, so you may feel fuller for longer. It might make you feel more satiating. So if that's the case, then hey, do it. Is it better to follow a meal plan or flexibly track when it comes to fat loss? There are benefits to both, and again, it depends on the person. I personally do half-half. Some of the benefits to meal plans are you'll get a lot more consistent weigh-ins because you're going to be eating the same thing every day. Meal plans also take away the decision making, which for a lot of people can make life a lot easier. You know exactly what you need to buy, exactly how much you need to prep, and exactly how much you're going to have each day. Meal plans, in my experience, can also help with obsessiveness over food. So if you're getting very lean in a diet, you can become obsessive about food, and you will always be thinking, oh, how many calories do I have left? Can I fit this? Can I fit that? If you have a structured meal plan, sometimes it's good because it takes that away. You don't have to think about it, and you're not always like, oh, I've got 600 calories left for the day and whatnot. You just know, oh, I'm gonna eat this, that's it. Some of the benefits for flexibly tracking is it gives you a lot more freedom. You have more options, and social events are a lot easier. So eating out, with friends, eating out on the go if you're very busy is a lot easier. You just have to be very strict with your tracking. The only thing with flexibly tracking is it can make your weigh-ins, quite up and down, as you might one day eat a lot of calories earlier in the day and then the next day vice versa. So you just need to be very strict with your tracking, and you need to track everything. What do you do when you plateau? So once you stop losing fat, you simply need to increase your output, so you need to burn more calories, or you need to decrease your input, so you need to eat less food. It is that simple, although in real life situations, it is a lot harder, because you have to, number one, like I was saying in the first video, you have to be real with yourself and am I being 100% compliant? So before I'd lower my calories, okay, did I actually hit my calorie spot on every day last week and the week before? No, I didn't. Okay, we need to get that in check first before we, touch calories or energy expenditure. Why do you plateau? So if you plateau, it's going to come down to a few things. Now, first thing it may be is your body has just adjusted to that new set point. So let's say you take 500 calories out of your normal eating. Over time, your body is going to adjust to that, and that new calorie target is going to be, that's your new maintenance, it's your new set point. You got to keep in mind as well, depending on who you are and how much weight you've lost, if you've lost 10 kgs, you're now a smaller human, so you actually don't need as many calories as you did before, therefore you will plateau. Can I drink alcohol and still lose fat? Yes, you can drink alcohol and still lose fat, believe it or not, but you have to keep in mind alcohol has 7 calories per gram, which basically means it's going to rack up real quick. So for example, a shot of vodka, just one shot of vodka has about 100 calories. So even if you are drinking vodka lime soda and you think, oh, it's all good, there's no calories, there is calories. And if you have 6 or 7 of them, that's an easy 600, 700 calories gone. You also got to think with alcohol, they're empty calories. So there's no benefits to drinking alcohol in terms of you're getting no micronutrients, you're getting no fiber, you're getting nothing good, and you're actually taking away from calories that you should be eating. So you're already in a calorie deficit, which means you're not giving your body what it actually needs to maintain weight, and therefore you're actually drinking on top of that. So it's not ideal, but it can be done. This doesn't mean, if you enjoy alcohol, this doesn't mean you should cut it out completely, because like I said before, you're not going to be able to sustain it. So if you love a few beers after work, on a Friday or Saturday, that's completely fine. I would still do that, because it's going to keep you in routine. It's going to keep your habits consistent. You're just going to have to factor that into calories. You're going to have to take it away from somewhere else. The other thing with drinking alcohol is, if you drink a fair bit, I'm sure you guys will know this, when you're hungover or once you're drunk, sticking to a plan and following calories is going to be thrown completely out the window. Once you're drunk, you're like, I don't give a shit, I'm going to eat this burger, this, and it can set you back quite a bit. So keep that in mind as well. Weight loss versus fat loss. Now, there is a little bit of a difference between weight loss and fat loss, okay? We want fat loss. We're not necessarily considered about weight loss, although with fat loss comes weight loss. So how are you going to measure this and what are you going to do? So basically, this is why it's super important to track your stuff correctly, and you also need to be consistent and make sure you're taking some sort of measurements each week and each month. So for example, I highly recommend progress photos and scale weight at bare minimum. If you can, girth measurements as well, but make sure you're at least doing those first two. The reason why this is so important is because the amount of times I've had clients, they drop a mass amount in the first week or two and they're really stoked, which is great, this is good, and this is normal. But then what happens is it does slow down a bit over the next few weeks, but it slows down to the rate I actually wanted them to lose, but they get disheartened because they're not sure of weight loss versus fat loss. So what I mean by that is, they'll drop, let's say they drop 2 kilos in the first week and they're like, this is amazing, I'm gonna keep dropping 2 kilos a week for the 12 weeks. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen. The reason you drop 2 kilos is because number one, you got consistent. Number two, we went into a calorie deficit. And number three, you lost a whole lot of water weight, a whole lot of glycogen stores, and you lost some food in your GI tract because you're not eating as much. This can create a lot of confusion for people, and it can mess with their heads a bit if they're not sure, what's going on. So when I go into fat loss phase, I'm well aware, first week, I'm gonna drop a good few kgs, but I don't let that, hype me up and be like, yeah, it's gonna be easy. I know my goal throughout is half kg a week, whatever it is. And I make sure I don't worry about that first few weeks and I just get on with it. So the best way for measures, like I said, scale weight and progress. Scale weight, weekly averages compared to weekly averages, not day to day. That's a big one. Your weight, you have to weigh yourself first thing in the morning. Empty stomach is going to be the most accurate because you haven't consumed anything, and it's going to be the same time of day every day. Same time of day every day. Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people, they weigh themselves one day and then the next day they're like, oh yeah, I just weigh myself at the gym. I'm like, what time do you train? They're like, oh, like after work at 4. I'm like, well, of course you're going to be a lot heavier. For one, you've got clothes on. For two, you've eaten and drunken throughout the whole day. So there's going to be huge differences. So you have to be consistent with all those weigh-ins. Do it at the right time and you'll be sweet. Progress photos week to week. The best way to do these is just front, side, and back relaxed in front of a blank wall, showing head to toe. Again, first thing in the morning, empty stomach, you're always going to be consistent. That way, we can look at the data as we go and we're like, yeah, cool, making good progress, or no, your scale weight has dropped and there's no change in progress photos. And if you're doing measurements, even better, there's no change in measurements. So that is the difference between weight loss versus fat loss.